is Natty time, and I'm feeling good about my picks, honestly. We had a up and down Final Four. If you watched that video, we had 9 units risked. We ended up losing 2.2 units on the night, but the first game didn't go that well. We had Villanova plus 10.5, and I stand by that, and we'll break it down in a second when we look at the box score, but that one didn't hit, and that was our biggest bet. We hit almost everything in the UNC Duke game. UNC money line. We have one that'll carry over into this video, which is nice. And if you want to keep up, hit the subscribe button, hit the noti bell. We go live so we can discuss this kind of stuff on the fly. I want to hear your takes. I want to give mine. I want to give picks. Let's get further into it. By the way, before we do that, PSA that it's a bad habit to just increase your bets based on the importance of the game. And sometimes I fall into that. Everybody does. But I think you just have to like the game more if you want to boost the unit count. And you can get caught up in doing Super Bowl. I got to do 10 units. I got to do this. I got to do that. It's not really true. You really need to just figure out what you like the most and base it off of that. So the pressure is on. I feel it. But you don't need to boost it up. You can have some side action and it's all good. So that's kind of the way we're going to lean. But I do have a strong feeling on both these tournaments. Now, there's 2 tournaments, by the way. The women play Sunday. The men play Monday. And I think there's a pick on the women's game. I'm not going to go as far into it, but if you watch the channel, you know I'm a UConn Huskies alum and huge fan. The UConn Huskies are 15-0 combined between the men and women's. Women's are 11-0 and men are 4-0 in the national championship. Never have lost. They bring it hard when the chip is on the line, and I think the women are going to do it on Sunday. Paige Buchers is the best. If she never got hurt, they would not be underdogs. And currently, you can get them at plus 155 to win the game and plus 5.5 on the money line. I took both, 1 unit each. I really think that would look a lot different if they were healthy throughout the year. And I'm just not fading UConn in a big game. Gino's the GOAT. Come on, what are we doing? So I don't have as many breakdowns about that one, but right off the bat, there's 2 units for you. Let's dive into the men's game, see what we can do. By the way, during the men's game, right before Duke UNC tipped off, we put a bet out there on Twitter. I'll give you the first one now and then 2 towards the end of the show. At Mike Mush Sports, follow the Twitter and the Instagram because sometimes you'll get up-to-date stuff that I can't do a video for. North Carolina Tar Heels were plus 700 to win the national championship right before the tip-off of the Duke game. And I said, those odds just, they don't make any bit of sense. They didn't really adjust after the Kansas-Villanova game. So I'm still getting UNC. I need them to win 2 games. I always did. But we know who the opponent is. I don't know if that makes people feel better or worse. I guess that's why the line didn't move. But if you just parlayed the 2 UNC money lines together, you're not getting plus 700 odds. And so it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I took that for a unit too. So we're 3 units in, and we haven't even gotten into the good stuff yet. But I did have North Carolina going into that game. I had North Carolina on the money line, which you would find out from the other video and the Twitter, all the stuff. Follow it all. Let's get into it. We got a lot of stuff to break down, and I want to go through it quickly to get to the picks. So you probably already know which way I'm leaning based on that bet, but let's get into why. I think this Villanova team, I had them plus 10.5. I thought they would keep the game close. I really did. And they battled all the way back to 6. It was 19. And then they battled down back to 6. And I thought, okay, we did it. We closed the gap. This is going to be fine. And then, honestly, they just didn't play defense. They really didn't, which surprised me a lot. And the injury maybe contributes to that. Maybe it doesn't. But I was shocked at how little defense they played. Kansas shot 53.7 from the field and 54 from 3. I don't think they're going to do that every night. I mean, they can really score, no doubt about that. But man, the way I saw this all going from the eye test was that McCormick just ate them alive. 25-9. They had no answer. They don't play anyone over 6'8", really. And I knew that, and I've watched Villanova struggle against UConn and some of the bigger teams, and I probably should have clocked that a little bit better. I didn't think they would win the game. I thought they would come close and cover. So I still feel okay about it because I expected the defense to be better, honestly, and I didn't expect Kansas to shoot this well. So that's that. But the key to this game to me was McCormick. Agbaji played great, no doubt. 6 for 7 from 3. I don't know how anyone could be expected to keep that up over another game, but he played awesome. I'm not going to take it away from him. Didn't do a whole lot else, by the way, aside from score. The real buckets from Kansas constantly came from getting it down low, Wilson and McCormick, and either scoring an easy bucket where there was no one in there, a lot of dunks, a lot of putbacks, rebounds going back up, stuff like that. And then the other baskets, even the Abaji stuff, pretty much came from the same kind of thing, dumping it down low and then just getting it back out to a wide open player. There was just so many open players because Villanova had to double down, pack the paint. I get it. It just didn't work because Kansas was hitting the shots and still scoring the buckets over doubles, so it didn't really make any bit of difference. Now, I don't think Kansas is going to be able to do that to North Carolina, but let's go through all of Kansas's losses, and I'm going to do it with North Carolina too. I have all their losses open here, and I want to see if I can find the patterns that I like, because this Kansas team isn't an unbelievable rebounding team. They're not huge. I don't think McCormick is like this unbelievable player. I have it open here. He averaged 10 and 7 this year, and he's been better lately. You go through it. I mean, sure, he had the 25 and 9, but then he was 15 and 4 against Miami. By the way, let's not forget that Kansas was getting smacked by Miami in the first half and then just absolutely tore them apart. That's very good. I'm not going to take that away from him, but you can't take the negative away from him either. And then McCormick goes 8 and 2 against Providence, 7 and 6 against Creighton, 9 and 7 against Texas Southern, 18 and 11 against Texas Tech. It's not always there. We are not always getting what you got against Villanova, and I'm starting to think that it's because Villanova was so small, he had the huge matchup advantage. Whereas Baycott on the other side really brings it always. Legit always. Look at these rebounding numbers. 21 against a Duke team that is bigger, by the way. He was giving up some size to Mark Williams and bullied him badly. Really badly. And I know there's the injury thing, and he rolled an ankle, but how many times, if you played basketball, do you roll an ankle, you think it's broken, I'm dying, and then 2 seconds later, you're up, you're walking, you're like, okay, I overreacted, got to play this cool, though, go back to the locker room, get it taped up, and then you come back, you're totally fine. That's how it looked to me. Whether he was or wasn't 100% at the time, I think he's going to be damn close to 100% on Monday night. So I'm not as worried about that as some other people are. If he didn't come back in the game, it would be terrifying. The spread would be different. But, yeah, I'm not worried. I mean, this guy... He doesn't even have to score to control the game. He just controls the glass so much. 21, 22, 15, 16, 10, 14, 11. There's an 18 here. 18, 15, 15, 14, 10, 22, 18, 20. He's been doing this all year. 22, 17. He's averaging 13 rebounds. I mean, this team can rebound the hell out of the ball with just him, and then they have all floor spacers around it. It just feels built correctly. It feels like that Orlando Magic team that Dwight Howard had. Like, is Dwight Howard the best player of all time? Does he have weaknesses? Whatever. None of it mattered because he could handle the interior, lock that down, and everyone around could just have so much more space to do stuff. You could say that about Kansas too, but I really do think that Baycott is going to give them problems. And the same way he did to Mark Williams, right? I went into that game saying whoever gets the better of that big man matchup is going to have a really, really easier time doing the rest of the stuff around the perimeter. And I think people are a little too high on McCormick after this game going against a non-center. And knowing what Baycott has in him, which could be his last UNC game, ankle sprain or not, I just imagine him to put it to them. But let's look through the losses in the box scores to see if this makes sense. So they lost to Kentucky. Shibwe did eat them on the glass and scored very efficiently on the inside. They didn't even shoot well from 3 and still crushed them. So, yeah, McCormick did nothing in this game. 3 and 1. Didn't even play a lot. Not even a lot of fouls. They just got smacked from the jump. So there's that. They lost to TCU. Let's look at the box score here. TCU did bang them on the glass as a whole team. 47-35. They really did. And they only shot 3 for 15 from 3. And Kansas shot better, and they just got bullied. And I'm not expecting UNC to go 3 for 15 from 3. The Baylor game, you know, people lose to Baylor, even though UNC beat them. I think actually Kansas beat them too. Yeah, you got a guard getting 12 rebounds against them. They do get out-rebound. McCormick did have a good game here, actually, but couldn't score. He's not a natural scorer. He's a dunker. And he's strong and big, but I don't know about autoplay, I'll tell you that. I don't know about the rest of it. Abaji struggled in this one, and when he struggles, shooting the basketball, it's going to be tough. I know he had 27, but not super efficient. 4 for 14 from 3. They were probably trying to gun back into the game. They don't have a big bench. That's another thing people are talking about. The UNC has no bench, so if Baycot's hurt, they're screwed. Like, neither does Kansas. They play Remy Martin off the bench, and that's it. He's a guard. He's 6 feet tall. There's no big depth in this game, either way. So foul trouble screws both teams, not just North Carolina. They lose to Texas. They barely get out-rebounded in this one. They held Texas again to a bad shooting night and still lose. Now, these are conference road games. I'm not getting on them about it necessarily. But it's interesting. They turned the ball over a lot, and in a high-paced game, you can't do that against North Carolina, that's for sure. But you can't do that against anybody, so. And this was a good one, rebounding the basketball, and they still came out on the bad end of it. It's a little bizarre how they lost this. It's just the turnovers, really. 8 more turnovers. You just can't win a game like that. I don't expect that to happen. This is a bit of an outlier game. Against Texas Tech, this is a defensive team, so couldn't be more different. McCormick went to the bench for this one. Hadn't been playing that well. More turnovers, honestly, and they do get severely out-rebounded. But Texas Tech is about as different from North Carolina as you can get. Still, the rebounding thing matters to me. They lose to Dayton. And this is a while ago, too, but, man, it's not what you want to see. 32 rebounds for Dayton, 24 for Kansas. They're holding people to shooting poorly and still losing games. That's what scares me, because if you're losing... I mean, of course, we're only looking at the losses, right? I could flip this the other way if I wanted to. But if you're losing and the other team is shooting the lights out, all right, what are you going to do? If you're losing and they're not, and then you face a team that is shooting the lights out a lot of the time, although they didn't against Duke necessarily, they still won. I'm worried about how that's going to go. So between the rebounding and the shooting, it's starting to scare me. Let's go to North Carolina. So we look at this box score from last night. They ended up 10 for 26 from 3, which is actually not that bad. But Caleb Love, 3 for 10. He played great, but he didn't really hit a lot of threes where I think he could have. And Manic missed a bunch of shots. He ended up 3 for 6 from 3 because he hit some late, but he was cold throughout stretches of this game. He could have played better, honestly. He played well down the stretch, but still. And I'm actually feeling like this North Carolina team, despite beating Duke, which is unbelievable, and Baycott just crushing them on the glass, which we've been talking about to death, I think they could play better than this game. I don't think this was necessarily their ceiling. RJ Davis played very well. This is about what he's going to give you every time. Love scored 28, but actually could have scored more. And it's really the Manic thing. That I didn't see it from him for 40 minutes necessarily. I don't know if you're going to get 21 rebounds from Baycott again, and I don't know if you're going to get 28 from Love again, but this looked a little bit to me like this is 90% of what Carolina can give. Maybe 95, but I still think there's a higher ceiling there. And for them to be such underdogs in this game felt a little weird to me, just considering how they've looked lately. But let's go back through their losses too. 18th in rebounds per game, by the way, for Carolina, which I really like. And Hubert Davis has them emphasizing that. There's no doubt about it. They lose to Virginia Tech. They do out-rebound Virginia Tech in this game. Baycott still gets 14, and they just didn't shoot it. 3 for 26 from 3. Really don't have to look very far else. 9 for 20 from 3 for Tech. And, you know, if you don't shoot the basketball, you're not going to win. I get that. But if I were a betting man, irony, I would say they're going to shoot it much better than that, because they have been lately. And their confidence is sky high. That's another thing. People are acting like there's a letdown coming, which sometimes happens. It's possible. But you can also flip it the other way. When guards like Caleb Love are feeling themselves like this, and Baycott comes into the game and physically dominates you, why wouldn't they be more confident going into the next game? And confidence is everything in basketball, especially with shooting. So too many people thinking this is a letdown game because they're already satisfied. Like, you can be happy and still want to win the next game at the same time. I don't buy that narrative so much. I think confidence is too important. This one, again, a 3-point difference. 10 for 17 from 3 and 7 for 26. This is when North Carolina was playing just about no defense early in their year. But, yeah, I mean, it's still true. If they go ice cold, they're going to lose the game, sure. They still out-rebounded the opponent in this one. Still had fewer turnovers. More assists, more steals, more blocks. You know, there's something to see there. Duke beat them badly. They both shot well from 3 here. Rebounding, though, Duke crushed. And you never see this. This is so rare. And by the way, Mark Williams still didn't play well in this game, but Banchero did. And Wendell Moore got on the glass. Yeah, 40-24. I mean, this is a kick in the face. And then what happened after this? I mean, I know I'm harping on the Carolina wins more than the next game. But they came off of this game where they got punched in the mouth physically and then did the same thing to Duke twice and beat them again. So this feels like a lesson learned kind of deal. Whereas with Kansas, it's like, well, there's no learning to rebound better. You just aren't that good at it necessarily. That's kind of how I'm feeling. They lose to Wake. They give up 98 points. Didn't shoot that well from 3, but still rebounded the crap out of the ball, 50-38. And most of the time, I really, sometimes you can out-rebound and lose, for sure. But when people are pointing to Kansas for bullying Villanova and saying, look, they won by 16, they're so good. It's like, well, they're not going to do that same thing to Carolina, and we're kind of proving it here. And maybe they can win in other ways. They definitely can. But when you're considering the line and UNC getting 4.5 for reasons that, to me, are not as legitimate based on the game that we just watched, I'm feeling like the underdog in a toss-up, at the very least, is kind of the move. And that's where we're getting to. They lose to Miami. They out-rebound them. They shot poorly. What are you going to do? A lot of these are road games, by the way. Miami shot really well. And UNC's D can fall apart. I'm not saying they're a defensive team. They might give up 80 to Kansas. They just might also win the game. I think they're very comfortable in an up-and-down battle. And Kansas is going to need to play that with them, right? Because they can't slow it down and dump it inside like they did. That's not going to work. You're smaller. So, and maybe they'll try, but I think that would be a mistake by Bill Self. I think you actually need to play up-tempo, and then you're playing into UNC's hands. So it's weird. It's very weird. It's almost like when the Warriors had Andrew Bogut. This is a totally random thing, but you couldn't just slow it down and bash them on the inside because he could deal with that. They had something to deal with. That's what Baycott is to me. It's like, yeah, it's not easy to slow us down because you're not necessarily going to dominate that way either. And then you're cutting off your nose to spite your face, and Kansas can't get up and down and run, which they want to do. So I think you're lulling yourself into a shootout here, and I don't know if you want that smoke with Carolina. And even if you do, I'll still take the underdog in a shootout for sure, because I imagine it being close. It could be played in the 80s. They lose to Notre Dame. Out-rebound the hell out of them. They did. They were playing a little too many people here, I think. This is before they tightened up the rotation. But yeah, it's pretty consistent. If they can just rebound and hit shots, they win the game. I mean, easier said, I guess. But I trust their players to do that kind of stuff right now. They lose to Kentucky. Sheboy had a good game. Actually, Baycott had a good game too. That was a good one. Davis and Love just didn't do anything. Guards didn't come to play. And Wheeler actually crushed them. Wow, look at that. Kentucky just scored at will. That's what you worry about with North Carolina. I'm not just going to say this is an easy win or anything. You worry about the defense. But it's looked to me like they've been just giving a lot more effort on the defensive end in these games after their confidence is high and after they know what's on the line. And I think effort can close a big gap defensively. And you're less likely to see a horrific defensive performance in a national championship game when everyone knows what's on the line. If you get in foul trouble, maybe that's a problem and they don't have a lot of depth, but I see them giving a lot more effort than they would in this kind of game on the road against Kentucky when they give up 98. I just can't imagine that's going to happen. And if Kansas comes out and scores 90 plus and wins 90-80, then I'll swallow the losses. But I think there's just going to be too much effort from the North Carolina side for it to be that kind of thing. They lose to Tennessee. Again, they give up 90. That's what happens when they lose. Even they shoot well. They got out-rebounded in this game, but it's always when they give up a ton of points. They give up 90 again here and lose to Purdue. So the same way Kansas gets out-rebounded and loses, North Carolina just doesn't defend and loses. But I think you're going to be able to make that up with pure effort and heart and coaching and confidence coming off of that Duke win. I really do. So when you look at the lines, and we'll give you the picks, as you can imagine what they are, I really like that North Carolina bet I got at plus 700 right before the Duke UNC game, which again is a reason to follow at Mike Mush Sports on Twitter and Instagram. I'm always on there giving some stuff, changing some things around if necessary. I try to keep the picks to the videos, but every now and then you get a good one that you got to hop on. So I have that. And then I really like UNC plus 4.5. I think it's going to be an up and down shootout. I think it has to be. And I think also North Carolina has the size advantage and strength. It's rare that you have a potential finesse advantage or at least a wash and the size and strength. And what I think is more confidence beating a more well-rounded team than Kansas was able to do, even though they won by more in a landslide. So UNC plus 4.5 feels good to me. And then UNC money line, I got it at plus 168. It actually opened around plus 145-ish right after the game. And I was almost going to take that, waited. It went up 168. It's settling around 160, 155, something like that. But I feel good about that line. If you can see it jump up for a minute, I would snag that. I just think this game's going to be close. I think UNC is definitely capable of winning. And when I like a team at with the points, I always like to sprinkle the money line. So I have 1 unit on them plus 700, 1 unit on UNC plus 4.5, 1 unit on UNC money line, 1 unit on UConn women's money line, and 1 unit on UConn women's plus 5.5. That's 5 for the Natties. I think Caleb Love will win most outstanding player probably, but just because he's been red hot. If they win, of course. But I think Baycott is an underdog. If he puts up another 20 rebound performance, I think you could sprinkle some on him. And if it's Kansas, it's going to be Abaji just hitting a lot of shots and leading them to probably an 85 to 90 point victory. So if you like that side, I guess you could sprinkle there. But I'm staying on Carolina. They've treated me well. They've played some of the best games in the tournament, by the way. That UCLA game was unbelievable. The Baylor game was ridiculous. And the Duke game was ridiculous. 3 of the top 5 games in this tournament. So it just feels like fate that they're going to go for it. And it would, narrative-wise, it would be just kind of a bummer if they beat Coach K in that last game and then lose the Natty. I don't want that to be the case, and I really have this theory that the letdown thing isn't necessarily real. If they lose, it's going to be because they gave up too many points and didn't bring the effort on defense, which maybe that is part of the letdown, but I'm not going to buy it until I see it. So on the heels, make your picks at your own risk. I am a mush, but I've been pretty hot. So far on the year, we are up 34.3 units as of filming this, and we have 5 units on the Natties. So good luck. Get in there. Follow at Mike Mush Sports for more, for updates, for reactions, for being mad when they're down and then excited when they're up. You get it all. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, join the chat, talk to me. We'll see you next time. Peace out.